Good evening, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao. We are in December in the Christmas season. We have a fantastic guest tonight whose art is a gift to the world. And he will be on in just a minute. A couple quick announcements coming up this week. Probably it for the show. Might do a draw stream later in the week. We shall see. Next week on Tuesday at 4 p.m., I will be on Untold Destinies channel. We are going to be talking about tabletop role-playing games, Empire of the Undying Sun, and other raucous subjects. So keep an eye out for that. And I have a guest, but it's not showing up on my calendar, so I will figure that out later on the 22nd, the week before Christmas. If you need that break from your family, well, come on over because Dean and Vicky from Untold Destiny will be here. We will be talking about the game Untold Destiny and also mapping. And we're going to be talking about some differences in gaming from Europe in the US. So that'll be a lot of fun. And on the next day, the 23rd, which is a Wednesday, come on back because we will have special guest Jack McCarthy. We are going to be talking gaming. And we're going to have a special last minute Christmas list. We're going to be talking about things that would be a wonderful present to give your players in game and wonderful things to give them out of game if you're looking for presents to give to a special gaming someone. And speaking of games that you can give to someone, why not try and get Empire of the Undying Sun for them? Yes, it's a horror game, which is perfect for Christmas. For both AD&D 1E and 5E, we have separate versions. Empire of the Undying Sun has horror in the woods, zombie invasion, swashbuckling pirate adventures, a new continent with a very dark god that demands blood sacrifice. We have jungles teeming with horrors waiting to devour your flesh. Desert sands that howl with the voices of the dead at night. And ancient temples, which may contain magical treasure or perhaps certain doom. Your players will have to make a decision that will change the face of the world forever. So go check out Empire of the Undying Sun. Still available on Kickstarter. There is a link over in the chat. Okay, and that is enough shilling for me for one day. Tonight, our extra special guest, a man who sounds completely Italian, but is all American in his love for comics. And tonight, his Christmas gift to all of us is Horace H. Hoover. I am talking about the one, the only, Fabrizio Aiello.
Good evening.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is always fun. I like our tangents in our random topic generator.
And starting with the most relevant Christmas topic, what do you have against brutalism?
So are you a fan? Have we talked about this before?
I don't. I remember you saying you hate brutalism before, but I don't think we talked about it.
So I will say this. Sort of the modern corporate race to the bottom cubicle farms, I think is an absolute like outgrowth and extension of brutalism. So everything that is like started with, like, I get occasionally simplifying things. I totally get that. Sometimes it can be very beautiful in a way. but brutalism, it took it in a purposefully ugly
Yep.
way. I mean, and now, to be honest, I'm not sure if the architects themselves termed it brutalism, or it was like most movements. Usually, it's the people on the outside that name the movement. They're like, that's ugly. That's some ugly shit. We're gonna call it brutalism. So I don't know.
Yeah. That would make sense to me.
It's oppressive. It is, and the simplicity in sort of the scale of it. This is what I think. Like, if you see a Gothic cathedral or some Art Nouveau, whatever, literally any other architectural style, there are details where you say you can see a human touched this, like
Yeah.
the hinges or the stairs, or some part. I'm like, okay, I can see a human being was a part of this. Brutalism is literally the exact opposite. I can see that concrete was poured, and that's it. So that's my opening statement.
Brutalism, I can't prove it, but I believe was the intentional design choice to dehumanize a place and to make people feel less human. Brutalism was very popular in Soviet style architecture, but was also popular for prisons in the US.
I can see it. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the one like example in the U.S. that is pretty famous is Boston, of course, right? So like you're walking through Boston, there's all these beautiful like old architecture streets, whatever, and then is it the FBI? It's a government building, and there's this horrific brutalist building, and when you see it next to this beautiful colonial stuff, and it's just it shows, okay, this is meant, like you said, to dehumanize you and basically piss you off. It's like you'll see public art that is purposefully ugly. Just we see that all the time now. It's made to piss you off, which is obviously the exact opposite of what it should do.
Yeah, I agree. And I will give you another fantastic example. So there is a brutalist prison design in Arizona. And it is made of brick, but it is purposely designed in such a way that it will catch the wind in order to cut down on cooling costs, air conditioning and whatnot. Now, this you want to, I don't know, I guess you'd say enfeeble your prison population or something. It kind of makes sense, right? I'm not saying I agree with it, but it makes sense. So in the 1960s, there were race riots in Rochester, New York. And the Rochester Institute of Technology had a campus that was in the city, and there were big riots there. And they said, well, F this, we're taking it, we're going to sell all this stuff in the city. We're going to move to the suburbs, which was all farmland, and they built a brand new campus. So they took this design for the prison in Arizona, and they put it in Rochester, New York, because what would be better to educate and inspire young people? And now the problem with this, or the big problem with this, is that Rochester, New York is on Lake Ontario. So in the middle of the winter, it is cold AF. And that funnel that was meant to cool the buildings in Arizona became a wind tunnel that I have seen. I had a classmate. She was like 5 foot nothing in college, so skinny, right? And she had one of those big art portfolios.
Yes.
You know the one I'm talking about, the one that you could fit like 18 by 24 page stuff in there. And she was getting blown away by the wind. And it is also the only place I've ever been in the world where no matter what direction you're facing, the wind is blowing directly in your face.
I mean,
I don't know how that's possible.
This sounds a lot like Edinburgh, where I went to school. Yeah. Because we had lake effect, snow, and wind. And like campus beginning to campus end was like a mile. So you're carrying those giant portfolios. The wind is whipping, the snow is whipping for like a mile in the snow. It was horrific.
Yep.
But yeah, I I'm really on this architecture kick just because, like I mentioned before, I see the destruction of the good stuff, and all I see coming
Yeah.
up in its place is the worst version of it. Um, and
And that's the thing that gets me. Like, I know several months ago, you posted a picture from the old arcade in Cleveland.
yeah,
That is such a gorgeous building. You go in there and you're like, shit, we could live like this. We could have nice things. They had nice things. What happened?
yeah,
Uh,
nice things for the public too. And now it's like
yeah,
nice things are just sort of like cordoned off for very like exclusive, rich sort of segments of society. Whereas before, like you could walk through these beautiful like malls that were, and now they're okay. It's a hotel, and it's only for weddings and this or that. It's a very strange change, but I think just being around beautiful stuff just makes people more pleasant. Yeah,
uh, yeah. And just for people who don't mess. Oh, that's a video. Okay, maybe I don't want that. Oh, geez, where are they? They should be pictures. But like it's you go in there and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I have to say, this picture, I remember going there as a kid. And while this is like nice with lights and stuff, this is nowhere near how awesome it used to be. There used to be a giant Christmas tree in there that would, I don't know how they got it in there. It would almost, certainly go to the third or fourth floor, pretty much all the way up to the top. Just absolutely gorgeous. It had these marble stairs that are worn out in the middle. That I think the arcade was built in the 1890s. I could be mistaken, but you could see what like 100 and it was like that in the 90s. So you could see what 100 years of people using that marble staircase
yeah.
has done to it. It just had it still has so much history and whatnot. It's just
But like you said,
disappointing,
we could live like this. Like this could be anywhere. We
Yeah,
could have these all over the place, but we don't. And it's a weird. Obviously, people don't choose it. People that are building the buildings, making these decisions to because there is no human being that would look at a brutalist piece of architecture and prefer that
yeah.
to like some Art Deco, Art Nouveau. They just wouldn't. So
Well,
it's
sadists,
well,
sadists
exactly.
who don't have to use it themselves.
Yes.
That they would like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think it's an art as well. It's all over the place. Ugly
Mhm.
versus beauty or whatever.
Sure.
Um,
Well, and it all started around the same time.
yeah.
It's interesting that replicating beauty was considered how would you say, like a must. It was a priority in art. And we went from basically trying to represent reality, because once you start getting like advanced painting techniques in the Renaissance, to actual photography, then for a little while it was like, okay, we don't have to be realistic, but we still want beauty. And then people were like, nah. Or you know what? I shouldn't say people, because I bet if you put like art up to normal people and you had like Frazetta versus like a blank canvas, people are
Yeah.
going to be like, yeah, Frazetta. So it's only the elites who somehow get to judge our art.
Yeah, and they've convinced a whole bunch of people that just want to pretend they're pretentious. They want to sound like they're part of this club, and they just go along with it. And
Yep.
it's a strain. And now we're stuck, right? Like I said, every new
Yep.
piece of public art is the worst thing you've ever seen in the U.S. at least. Well, I mean, there's places, even in Florence, that one statue of a large black woman
Oh, I
that's
don't know that
showing
one.
up everywhere. It's just like an
Oof.
8, 9 foot. It's in Florence now. So there's really no place that is untouched by this purposeful, like, now they call it, they would say it's a conversation, or they would say it's like confronting people with, hard truths or whatever. I'm like, no, it's just ugly, and you know it, and you're doing that on purpose.
Maybe it's a contrasting thing to show just how awesome the Renaissance art was, how awesome the Medicis were. See, these guys were so good. They didn't do this crap.
Speaking of Cleveland, I went to the art museum there, which again,
Oh,
fantastic.
yes.
Really,
Yes.
I've been to a bunch in the U.S., and outside of the Met, the Cleveland one is honestly one of the best.
It's consistently ranked 3 in the world. And like if you take what is it called? Like history of art classes in a university setting, generally about a third of the artifacts, if you look on where they're getting the pictures from, it'll say Cleveland Museum of Art. A lot of people don't know, like the Rockefellers were here. Their Westinghouse was here. There were a ton of rich families who lived here in the 1920s. Like the Euclid Ave had Millionaires Row. And that would be like if you said Wall Street or Rodeo Drive, something that everybody knew. Like at that time, everybody would have known. And they were some of the first philanthropists who were like, okay, we're dirty, filthy rich, and our descendants will also be dirty, filthy rich forever. So they decided to do public stuff. Like we have fantastic orchestra. For a long time, it was considered the best in the world. We have the second largest theater district in the country, which shocks everyone. I think we used to split a ballet company with San Diego, or San Francisco, one of the two, which was like outside of, I think New York was like the only one in the US. So they have a lot of culture that nobody gives a crap about anymore.
Yeah, the museum, honestly, we'll be back there just for the museum. It embarrasses a lot of museums I've been to. Like I said, outside the Met, it's incredible. But the one thing that I took some photos of it. I was going to post it, but I felt almost a little too bad. Outside of the painting, so we're going through the sort of the Roman sculpture and all that kind of stuff. And it's obviously coordinated. It's sectioned by time periods. Yep. So you'll see like this Greek sculpture, it's probably 800 BC or something. And then you'll see like a piece of African art from like 1850. And it's like, I mean, one is this beautiful sculpture and one is like a piece of wood with some nails in it,
Yeah.
And like one eye and a wonky eye or something. So, it comes out of culture, and where that we don't need to go that deep into like where that comes from, but anyway.
It is kind of jarring. Especially, you're right. It's cordoned off generally by time period, but also by location. So like they'll have, you might get to Renaissance and then right next door is like 3000 BC Indian art.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, the African. I don't think they have a Native American section though, but I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it can be quite jarring, or I like that they do a lot of traveling exhibitions. Mm-hmm. However, some of them are like, really? This is art? And, like right next to the armor court and like sarcophaguses and, Egyptian sarcophaguses and stuff. It's like,
Yeah. Sometimes they have to like keep some pretentious somebody on the board, like they need cred and have some, de Kooning or some abstract expressionist kind of stuff. But
so Dr. Matt says, how is the city of Cleveland now? We know New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago have all declined. Well, Cleveland started to decline really in the 1970s. So it's gone way down the crapper since then. And we've plateaued and we've become accustomed to our crapitude. It's like, do you want a low cost of living? Well, come on over. And and it's like, there's nice things, but it's not like, if you want a big nightlife, it's not that good. If you want nice weather, it's definitely not good, except for the summer, which is generally pretty nice. So 3 months out of the year, you're good.
You have good gun laws in Ohio, like similar to PA.
Yes.
So
PA is good. That's so interesting.
Yeah, definitely. If they ever went the other direction, I'm like, I'm out. I'm getting my buried chest from West Virginia, and I'm taking off.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, it does make you sad. So I think, as a segue, whenever we write stuff or draw stuff, it's like, okay, what would be our idea? Like, where would we want to jump into if we could? And for me, 1920s, 30s New York is just, it's amazing. So that's our way out a little bit, and hopefully that translates. How about that for a segue? I should be on like Johnny Carson. That was an awesome segue.
You are correct, sir. Well, speaking of, settings and whatnot, since, well, first of all, what is it about 1920s New York that sort of piques your interest, number one? And then number two, as an author, do you feel it, especially in a comic like Horace, do you feel it necessary to keep, how would you say, like, historically accurate?
Yeah.
Or is it more that, since this is sort of historical supernatural fantasy, like it's fine to just pick and choose the details that you liked?
Yeah, so I mean, those are great questions. The first is, to me, 1920s, even into 30s, I think is just, it's an explosion of growth. And because of that, it's just interesting to me. It's before, obviously, the decline. At that point, New York is still building up and not slowly declining, and sometimes even faster. So to me, it's a period on the upswing. I also think because of that sort of cacophony of industry and progress, that in my head, at least, somebody like Horace would be, there's so much going on that maybe he wouldn't be noticed as much. If this was like British Victorian times and they've just been sort of living this same life for a long time, I think he would stick out. But the craziness of New York in my head back then, I imagine people from different places coming, different ways of dress, different, I think he would not fit in, because obviously he has a giant helmet. But speaking of historical stuff, if you look back at that time period and even a little later of like technology for like gas masks or that's interesting. Gas masks, or you get some crazy stuff on people's heads. So that's why I'm like, you know what? I'll let that slide because it's along those lines. Yeah. What is this?
I just randomly ran across this on Instagram. And I was like, oh my God, it's Victorian Horace. And I did ask the guy, like, is this a take on Horace H. Hoover? And he's like, no, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. But I just, so I meant to send this to you because that's like, wow. That's like, that's funny. I can see like a prequel series and this is Horace.
Just slowly. Yeah. Just the technology kind of goes back and back and back. That's funny. But yeah, as far as like historical accuracy, I'm kind of just going for I hate to say the word now because it's the vibe or the atmosphere, but I do occasionally pull out a map, but I'm not like, technically there's not a bridge on that street at that, I'm not going to do that because I don't think it adds anything. I think it burdens the writer with needless details. That's kind of how I see it. If this was, an actual biography of a president, or, that's one thing, or historical fiction even. It's sci-fi, it's fantasy. There's enough in there, but I just want people to know that when they see a city street, okay, that looks like an old New York 20s, 30s, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, and I think too, settings, especially in fiction, um, they don't really need to be, well, generally, they don't need to be historically accurate per se, but they're more like shorthand for a feeling or shorthand for what are the rules of the universe, So it's in 1920s New York, so you're still going to have like old-timey cars and probably
Yeah.
horses, but in general the world has to be somewhat similar to what we would know. So then we could start to see the contrast with, it's not like everybody's walking around with
Yeah.
vacuum cleaner looking headgear.
Yeah, that's totally right. Because like many other writers, I almost made the mistake of world building, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna create the characters, and the world is gonna kind of build up around them. And
Yeah.
it's worked for me, at least. I know some people write differently, but if I focus on the characters, and then when it gets to, okay, well, did they have phones? What kind of phones would they have at that time? I do look into that, but usually a lot of that stuff is arranged too. It's not like
Mhm.
they got lighting, electric light, November 20th, 1920. Usually it's a range. It
Yeah,
rolls out to certain areas first. So there's a lot of leeway.
definitely. So if this were modern times, would it have to be like San Francisco or Sydney or something to get to a place where Horace wouldn't stick out anymore?
That's interesting. I never thought about him in modern times. It's very strange to me. I don't know. Now, the one thing that I do in issue one is they're taking a cab to this one location, and the guy's like, "You and your theater troupe," because he
Mhm.
sees them as like maybe circus people or
Yeah.
like theater group, and I think that it's not so outlandish that that couldn't be the case, and especially someplace in New York where that kind of stuff was prevalent.
Yeah, when I remember reading that issue, and I kind of got the feeling of Ghostbusters. Like if you remember the first Ghostbusters movie, especially when they're going to the hotel, they're dressed in their costumes with the proton packs and stuff,
Yeah.
and everyone's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh man. To me, Ghostbusters is a pretty good analogy to it. Yeah, the technology and especially the atmospheres of Ghostbusters really kind of it it's in line with this. The books, the library, the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, so you are currently crowdfunding for issue number 4, which is on Kickstarter right now, which I may have forgot to put that link in the chat. So let me do that real quick. And you've also got issues 1 through 3 available up there for anyone who missed it.
Yep.
So where do we pick off with number 4? What's going on with
So,
Horace?
all right. So this is sort of the conclusion of the longer arc. Issue 1 has 2 short stories, and if you never pick up another Horace H. Hoover story again, they will feel complete. But issue 2 kind of picks up at the end of one of those stories, and then issue 3, and then issue 4 is the conclusion of that. So this is where we have a little girl, and she's being sort of haunted by a ghost. We find out it's sort of a book, and there's an entity trapped in the book, and this is sort of where Horace like gets into the mystery, takes him through some crazy places. He gets captured, he escapes, and this is the conclusion. So this is the very end of that, and a lot happens. It's 38 pages long, so I didn't want to pull a J.J. Abrams, and like most of us, the ending of TV shows and movies are always the worst,
Yep.
always. And that fear, it would like keep me up at night. So I'm like, I can't make this rushed. It's got to be clever. It's got to work like emotionally and dramatically. So I'm really happy with it. I feel like it's a great payoff for these, past 3 issues. Um, and then issue 5 is going to be a one-off, so that's just going to be it's going to be in the world, and you will see a little bit of sort of like a recap and also reference something. So it's not completely separate, but you will see some references of other things. That way it feels like one solid story. And once these are combined, I think it'll really read well as a 5-issue, graphic novel.
Nice. And it's been I can't quite remember. Has it? When did you start Horace? 21, 22?
I think the first one came out in 21. I mean, I had done it in like 2019, but by the time it was published and it went out there, it was probably 2021.
So now that you're coming up on 5 years from that one, as an artist, as a writer, how would you say your development has been? And now that presumably you have leveled up in your skills, how does that make you want to take on more challenges, less challenges?
Yeah, so it's funny because I can't believe the first thing I did was write, draw, color, ink, letter a book. It seems insane to me. I wish I had a smarter person say, Fabrizio, don't do it all yourself. But then again, each issue was a huge learning experience because I'm doing all of it. It's one thing to write an issue. Like I said, if you're doing, and now I'm publishing them. So literally every aspect of this issue. I don't know of that many people that do this, especially color. I know some black and white like Brian Ball and maybe Michael Bancroft. I don't know if he letters. I mean, there's not many people that do 100% of their books.
Yeah.
And there's probably a reason for that, but because of that, I would learn every week. Like I would feel like I learned things throughout the process. As far as like specifics, to me, it was, the art was, can I do this at all? Can I do sequential art? And I knew I could. I feel like I've always had a knack for it. Like the actual visual storytelling. So I wasn't overly worried about that. But my thing was, okay, multiple locations. We have a whole cast of characters. Are they going to look the same? And then once I realized, okay, I can do that, and without breaking any sort of, focus of the reader, the language and the dialogue for me was like paramount. And I feel like with issue 3, I felt very, very comfortable with all the language, the dialogue, how it flowed, the pacing. So issue 4 is like, it's the first, it's like the first issue that I feel like I nailed everything. I mean, I know I shouldn't say that, but I do. I love the pacing. There's a really big action scene, and it's a clever action scene. It's not just punch, 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 finish. There's some funny scenes that I'm probably my favorite scenes in the whole series. And again, it ends with like a dramatic sort of emotional beat, but it's not maudlin, because I called it doing a maudlin pass. Because the ending can be overly maudlin, and I don't like that. So I scaled it back and I scaled it back, and I tried to do just enough to like land it.
Very nice. How is adding humor to comics? Because to me, that's one thing that, like, especially you read like Marvel, modern Marvel and DC, a lot of the jokes just are like, oof.
Yeah. This is my rule. I don't add humor to add humor. Like when I'm writing, because I don't think in the second issue there's any humor. I mean, there might be, but I don't think, okay, I got to add a joke or something's got to be funny. Because as far as I'm concerned, you could have 5 issues with Horace that just aren't funny or anything. I have no problem with that. So I don't feel the pressure. Like, oh, it's been 6 pages. I got to add a joke or this or that. I got to, break the tension. And because of that, I think it just comes out naturally for me. Yeah. So I don't feel that pressure because it's not a comedy, but it does have humorous elements. And to me, like, Horace is a humorous character.
Mhm.
So I think he kind of carries that along like at a level 2 all the time
Mhm.
almost. So when there is a joke that presents itself, I think it just adds to it. Um, yeah. So I mean, in jokes, I think are you can come up with a structure for jokes. I mean, like there's a reason that sitcoms, crank out these episodes once a week. There's a structure to jokes, and anybody can learn to sort of tell a joke.
Yeah.
But it's like you can see them coming. They feel forced, and sometimes they're just not appropriate. Like I don't want to laugh at this scene. Why are you making me laugh at this scene?
2020s Marvel movies.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I'm trying to think of comic books growing up that had humor in them that I liked.
Um, there were, well, the ones that come to mind, depending on your style of humor. You could have like the Spider-Mans where he would make sarcastic quips during a battle, even though the comic itself wasn't funny. There might be funny moments, but there were other ones like I'm not a big Peter David fan, but I think his run on She-Hulk was quite good. And then of course there was stuff for younger kids like Spider-Ham.
I loved, yeah, Spider-Ham, Gru. I mean, at the
Groot.
time,
Oh yeah, and what was that? Usagi Yojimbo. If you ever read those.
I haven't.
Oh, okay. It's a
Um,
rabbit samurai. And I guess Cerberus before Dave Sims went off the deep end.
and there's like those anthropomorphic stuff, like Captain Carrot.
Yeah.
Those are, but those
Yeah.
are really over the top kind of things. I don't think
The Tick.
like
There you go.
the Tick, yeah. But if you opened up a random Daredevil comic, I don't think you would find any humor for the most part that I can think of.
No. To me, that's tonally that's not right. It's like when
Yeah.
Batman goes and does something with Constantine. It's like this kind of doesn't
Yeah.
work.
So it is interesting. I never, like when you sit down and write, there's a part of you that's like, okay, I need to write a story and it's got to be about X. And you can do it and you can hack your way through it. But I have a full-time job. This is something that I enjoy doing. So I'm just going to, like, I want to enjoy the process as much as I want the readers to enjoy it. And because of that, this is what comes out. So.
And you were mentioning you really learned a lot doing everything. So let's say there was some kid with a lot of pluck who comes up to you and you had to give him advice. Would you recommend just make a comic and do it all? Or would you would you tell them what you wish somebody had told you, which was, just do part of it and have somebody else do the rest?
So I will say this. My career over the past 30 years or however long I've been working has afforded me the ability to learn things outside. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to pick up Photoshop from scratch. I didn't have to pick up Illustrator. There's a lot of stuff that I already knew going into this. So to some degree, it was more like refining a lot of stuff. Yeah. So if somebody had zero experience, I would say, no, don't do it. But if you grew up doing design, if you have a job doing storyboards, if you have some other tangentially related job, yeah, I say do it. Maybe don't do it like me, because I did take the hardest way in a lot of respects. But you could do a simpler art style. You could do a simpler story structure and all the stuff that I really took to 10. Just dial it back. But I think you could do it yourself as long as you do a short story first. Do a 6-page short story, see how long it takes you, and then judge from there. It's like I used to do game development a lot, and every game developer, and I was the first game that they want to do is an MMORPG every time.
Yeah, of course.
Without fail.
Right.
And they think they're going to be the ones that they do it. Now everybody else failed, but I definitely can do it.
Yeah, that's kind of funny you mentioned that because I I got a master's degree in design, and that effectively was my thesis.
Really?
Yes, but it was not. So when did I do that? It was 2000. So I think Ultima Online was out, but World of Warcraft had not come out. I think EverQuest had been announced, but it was not out, if I remember correctly. But basically, it was like a learning English as a second language game. And there was an old program called Director, which I don't know if you remember.
I do.
And they had a server package for it. So I was able to make a very very rudimentary multiplayer game with it
Awesome.
that would crash if you looked at it sideways.
I mean, that's
But
cool.
yeah, I never did anything with it. But
Yeah, I mean, like most things, I have a graveyard of unfinished games. But I remember the one day I decided to do the comic book. I should say focus on comics because I had played around here and there. And I said, you know what? Even if I finish this game I'm working on, and I'd already spent like 4 or 5 months on it, I don't really play games. Like
yeah,
I don't play games. So even if I finish it, I really won't get much enjoyment from playing my own game. But a comic book, I will. Like so that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that was the deciding factor for me to like focus on comics instead of games.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah. So as I'm scrolling through this, one thing I'm interested in is your choice of colors. Mostly because I hate most coloring in comic books. But I don't hate this, which is mostly because you use like, all right, let me see if I can zoom in on this. Uh, I guess it doesn't look too bad on the screen there, but we have things like, for example, in this panel in the lower middle, you've got Horace against just a green background, which I'm assuming is because his primary colors outfit really pops against that green.
Yeah.
And then in up in the upper left, that house wagon with
Yeah. Little
uh,
wagon, gypsy wagon.
yeah, the gypsy wagon probably is not actually painted purple, but it makes sense for the scene. And same thing with the building to the right of it. Um, it's all one color because it's not. You don't need to have like a different color for every detail, which is something I think modern comics get absolutely wrong. Um, is this just like too much? It's like a coloring book.
Yeah, I mean I totally agree. And I think I try to do my best in deciding when those things need to be popped. And so like, if like you're looking at that one panel at the top where
Mhm.
Horace is talking, like we don't need to see every book on the shelf. We don't need to see
Yeah.
every pane in the window. The only thing it'll do is distract you. And to me, it's akin to like if you're inking and you have a million little lines that are non-descriptive, then it's
Yes.
just noise.
Oops.
So I think that's how I treat the colors. And I will say this, it does work in my favor because it also takes less time. And it is indicative of the Bronze Age coloring I'm looking for. So
Yes.
it just totally lines up with everything I'm doing, and it takes less time. So
But I would say that it does seem like you have maybe changed it up a little bit. Let's see, that's issue
yes,
one. Like if you look at issue one, things are flatter. I guess you would say like there is some change in the color, like a little to give a little darker color for what would be in shadow, a little lighter. But it seems like you've upped that, but still kept the same Bronze Age type theme. of the palette.
Yeah, each issue is a little different when I look back at them. And I'm okay with that. I'm still experimenting, still within the, like you said, the bounds of that. So
Mhm.
it's I'm not going too far, but there are times where I would look at a page and you just get in sort of like a style, and before you know it, I'm like, okay, I like the way this looks. Oh, geez, I added highlights and shadows, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I did it. It looks good. I'm going to move forward.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes that is a subject matter too, because like in the third issue, there's a lot of like caves, and I really
Mhm.
wanted to pop them three-dimensionally. So there are areas where um, I do a little more sort of modeling um, than I have done in the past. So yeah, I am playing around with that. The third issue, I feel like I went very old school. Like, what is her name? Glennis Ween?
Yes, I think she went back to Glennis Oliver,
Oh, okay.
because well, she was married to oh crap,
Len Wein?
yes, Lin Wein,
Okay,
and then at some point they got divorced, and she went back.
gotcha. But yeah, somebody posted, her classic coloring, which I think is my favorite. Like, she's a master at it. So it's like whenever you're drawing a lot of figures, and maybe you've been doing them for like 3 months, you have to go back and you have to reference it again. I was like, oh, that's right. I need to look at a skeleton. I need to look at the structure again. You just have to constantly refresh yourself, because if not, you just start to go down a path and you become overly stylized and overly shorthanded with everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I go back, I look at her stuff, I'm like, that's right. She would totally just make that one color.
Yeah, I mean, to me, she's like the high point in the 80s. Not that necessarily you couldn't go other ways with it, but I just think that she did such a great job. And I remember it's actually interesting if you compare. They re-released most of the artist Mark Silvestri's run on X-Men, where they released it in black and white a few years ago, and you can go and see what it looked like without colors, and it's fantastic. But if you compare it then to the original comic, or I guess even a trade, then you can really see what her colors did. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff that she would do. Like if I go back and find that image now,
That's an issue 4, so that should be at the top, I think.
the top
Yeah.
was it here? Was here? Oh yeah, here we go. Like if you look at the upper right on this page, Horace is in full color, but the lady is just magenta.
Yeah.
So it's like, who are you supposed to be focusing on? Horace. And Glennis would do that. There would be like, you'd have like all the X-Men there, but only like 2 or 3 who are speaking or who the topic is about are in color. And then the rest would just be like either like a light lavender or just whatever the background color is, and it's so like in your mind, you see everybody there, but boom, you're focusing in on those 2 or 3 characters.
Yeah, and I really like everything else, we have a tendency to rely on certain like writing tropes or
Mhm.
words and graphical shorthands. I have a tendency to color things certain colors. And I'm like, you know what? Glennis, she had bold colors, and there are
Yeah.
times I'm like, holy cow, that's like a blue like panel right next to, and I would never think to do that because we've been brought up in this very like more subtle approach to things. So that purple page is a perfect example of me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going bold with the purple
Yep.
and really differentiating it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, this is something. Well, I think. Well, there's a whole slew of things wrong with modern comics, but at some point, they decided that artists should do all the pencils and the inks instead of splitting it off. So then you get crappy inks, uh, I mean, that's true. There's
Yeah.
like no volume in it. It really is like a child's coloring book. Like they will never re-release modern artists black and white versions like
Yeah.
they did for Mark Silvestri, because unless you're going to give crayons with it or something. But to make up for that lack of volume, we see more. I don't want to say realistic rendering in color, but more gradations, I guess you
Yeah.
would say. And it just does not seem to work because, I think most of these people don't understand color theory. Number one, for like contrasting and
Yeah.
not just contrasting, but the amount, the saturation of the colors.
Yeah.
Like just don't make it. I know if I put that into Photoshop and I just turn it black and white, like it's all going to be a massive gray, the same gray.
Like if you walk into a comic book shop, there's so many covers that just disappear. You have
Yep.
no idea. And it's actually shocking. Like you said, they have no concept of color theory. They really don't. And I don't know if it is this joy of having access to Photoshop's millions of colors or billions of colors, but that Rocket Raccoon cover is gray and blue. How am I supposed to?
Yeah.
There's 6 characters on that cover. I don't even know what's going on. Meanwhile, I mean, that's why I chose this palette. It's almost like cheating. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cheating sometimes. I'm like, yeah, Horace is going to stick out. He's got a red head and a blue body,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with. I know people complain about Tumblr artists, but I think that legitimately is part of the problem, where younger artists have grown up in a space where, like, if I were to come in and say like, oh, that's that finger looks wonky or something, everybody would be aghast that I would actually say anything.
Yeah.
It's not like the old system where you would get criticized and criticized, and as you sort of moved up the ladder, you would be fixing the flaws in your own work until you theoretically, you get to the pinnacle of your ability. Whereas that doesn't happen anymore. You see artists complaining online, like, "Oh, my editor told me to redraw Superman's arm because it's not," you
Yeah.
know. And I do think that is part of the problem, where color theory is almost like a mystery in some ways, where unless you have like this would be the one place I would be pro university class, assuming it was taught correctly, is that you really need to sit down, learn the fundamentals and why they work, and then experiment with different things that work, which I don't think happens for most people anymore. It's like trees are green and skies are blue, and
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Even when I went to college, which it was still pretty classically trained stuff, we didn't really have like a color like real basic.
Yeah.
A week on color theory or something like that. I mean, meanwhile, I've read books on color theory. I know that sounds like the most boring thing on the planet, but
Not for me.
not for you. But I mean, I'm sure some people out there are like, I am not going to spend a week or two reading a book on color theory. But if this is what you want to do, you have to do it.
Yes.
And why not? Why not give yourself all the tools you could possibly give yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. At some point, you need to, like, if you say I want to be a successful comic book artist, or even more than, however you define success, or if you say like, look, I want to be at the top of the industry, like, well, you got to develop these skills. And like, even if you're not doing the color yourself, you need to know how to draw and ink for someone to do the colors, and you need to figure out who's a good colorist and why, and who is going to work well with your style, so you can finagle it that somehow you're working with that person. And we see that in the past. That was an issue for past as well. There's all sorts of stories about the X-Men writer Chris Claremont. He would pay out of pocket to have Glynis Oliver do his colors. Marvel was paying her something. I don't know what it was, but he pay her more out of his profits. And supposedly there were several pencilers and inkers who had the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's like having the best studio musician in your band, to
Right?
record a record. So why not? And I wonder, though, kind of not to get back on the art topic, but we're constantly told that art is subjective, and it's, there's no right answer. Like it's everywhere all the time, and eventually it just becomes part of the like ethos of, well, this is the way I draw. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, well, the way you draw is wrong. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Well, I don't want to draw realistic. Okay, well, do you want to draw appealing? Like whatever
Yeah.
it is you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be photoreal or anything like that, but there are rules. Like if you set out to do something that you have to adhere to, and I just think it's a free for all, and I think that's also why people like myself and others who just some people call it nostalgia to go back to the old stuff. I'm not a big fan of nostalgia. I'm pretty good at differentiating nostalgia from like real, actual good stuff. Like there are times I'll go back and reread an old comic that I used to love. I'm like, you know what? That really doesn't hold up. That wasn't great. And some they still are fantastic books, So I think we can look back at some of that, the old coloring, the old art, and say, yes, objectively, these met these standards more so than new comics.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would definitely say that there is a certain amount of fashion in art, meaning that what's popular changes over time. However, if we go back, the fundamentals of those pieces should still work. Maybe there was something about making fun of Richard Nixon, in a comic in the 60s or something. But the art just really doesn't hold up. That's where you would see the fashion, which, okay, it's popular for its time. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very different from finding, like some Jack Kirby, some of his better stuff that, even though that needs a little wonky, but the whole thing together is amazing.
Yeah, it's logical. It's like there's this phrase, I'm going to get it wrong, but like if you hit a wrong note in jazz, it sounds wrong. If you hit it 3 times, it's you meant to do it. It's
Yeah.
So if there's an internal logic to your art, and the way Jack draws every character on the page the same, then our brain says, okay, this is a different language I'm looking at. Now I have to decipher it in that particular way. This is a kneecap, even though, it might not anatomically look like a kneecap. That square is a kneecap. So whenever I see that square somewhere, it's a kneecap.
Yeah. So sorry, Dr. Mask. He asked us a while back, which part of doing everything yourself did you find most difficult to master?
For me, definitely the lettering, because I'm not a graphic designer. I've done graphic design in the past, but it's probably my weakest skill set. So definitely lettering and like logo design and branding. It takes me a long time to do it. I get there, but it just takes me a long time. The writing was just a joy. And the drawing was like, I had some struggles, but after the first issue, it was more like there are 2 levels, I think. This goes for writing too, but for drawing mostly. First, it's like, how do I draw a room and a guy? The second level is like, okay, what kind of room and what kind of guy and what angle? Like the problem isn't can I do it? It's like choosing what you want to do is more of the struggle. I might have done 3 versions of this panel. They all work, but for me, it's that third one that is the tough one. So that's a long answer, but definitely the lettering.
Interesting. So sort of talking, we were talking about, or you had mentioned, is part of the problem with modern coloring the fact that you have over a million colors to choose from in Photoshop. Do you sort of, when you're on your own, and this is your book, you're writing it, you are totally responsible for it. Did you find that at all difficult to sort of, like you were saying, to choose, like, okay, I need this angle, I need this, like when you can do anything, is that sometimes much worse than having limitations put on you?
I think so. I think there's a great book called Art and Fear. It's been so long since I read it. If there's any artists out there, writers, I got to Google it real quick. I think it's called Art and Fear. But I think those limitations really give you a structure. Like if you're standing in front of a white canvas, then literally it's an infinite number of possibilities that you can do. Every time you make a mark on that canvas, that limits. Okay, so it's infinity -1. Next mark, infinity -2, and each thing you're doing is limiting, which inevitably leads you down a path. Really fantastic book. I can't recommend it enough. It really explains why we procrastinate, why we're afraid of doing things, why we don't finish things. Just, it's very short too. I think so yeah, I think limitations help, and especially limitations that you set yourself. It's one thing if you have an art director say, "Hey, Fabrizio, I need you to do X, Y, and Z." That's difficult and can be pretty stressful and not fun. But when you're the one setting the limitations, it's like, yeah, it's give yourself the freedom to come up with the limitations that you think that you'll do well with. It's like, I'm going to start running. Okay, am I going to go immediately to a marathon, or am I going to do a 5K first? Set yourself up with a 5K. It's doable, and then, move forward. But if you're like, I don't know, I could run anywhere from 40 feet to an ultra marathon, then it's just chaos.
Yeah. That is sort of, if I had to give a tip for someone, make limitations on yourself, even if they are temporary. Like as I'm writing my D&D campaign book, the most fear-inducing, chest-clutching thing I can see is a blank page. Like when I open a new document to start a new chapter or new this or that, it's like, the stress, like I just don't want to do it. I want to go back to bed. So I have to tell myself, like, well, I'm not doing everything. I'm just writing out a quick outline, or I'm just describing this one room. That's it. This is one room. And then, finish that. It's like, oh, okay, well, I can do this other room now.
Yeah.
And for me, like, definitely that's the way I have to do it, or if I'm doing art for it, I have to tell myself, like, okay, well, it doesn't need 10,000 different cross hatchings. I'm just going to do, like one pass. And then maybe I'll go back later and say, like, okay, now I will add more in, or this or that. But I try to limit myself, because if I don't, I will be paralyzed with fear.
Yeah, I had this rule for a long time. I don't, like you said, it was temporary. In the beginning, I said, I'm going to finish each page. Only when the page is done will I decide to redraw it or not. But I can't start it, scrap it, start it, scrap it. So that was a rule for the first issue. I'm like, I'm going to finish each page, and if I still abhor everything about it, all the inks, then I'll redo it. And that only happened maybe once or twice. So you just gotta get through it first, because you don't. And I've said this before. Everybody says it, but you don't learn anything unless you finish. Starting and stopping, you don't learn anything. You just don't learn anything doing that. And the thing about inking for me too is because, all right, so you do pencils, it looks good, you got the structure there, but it's not finished until it's inked, and there's a lot of lines when you're inking, and oops, I messed this up. Because I work traditionally, so do you. I messed this line up. Well, guess what? There's going to be 10,000 lines on this page. That's only one line. Why don't you just keep going? Okay, 2 lines messed up, but I got 10 right ones in there. And it's a proportion game basically.
Yeah, and it's like I think the same thing with art. I use this when occasionally I go and I lecture to like different kung fu schools and stuff, and I'll tell them like, well, the difference between a newbie and a master is if you're new, you do 10 kicks and maybe you get one kind of sort of right. If you're a master, you do 100 kicks and maybe you get one kind of sort of wrong. And that's the progression that you want to get to. And it's the same thing with writing. It's the same thing with drawing. And, uh, hopefully one day the scary blank page won't affect me anymore. But, I do even notice myself, like I feel much after I've been drawing for a little bit, I feel much more confident going into new pieces and like, oh, I can tackle something a little bit more complex
Yeah.
and just up the level just a little bit.
Yeah, for me, for story structure, that's what I like. I kept on upping the structure, and then I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll have an plot and a B plot. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe so. And I think people say you just got to start, and it sounds so sort of like trite, but it's literally all you have to do. I did this one short story, and it was like, you know what? I'll spend 45 minutes a day, every day, just writing. Before you know it, I got like 17,000 words. The story's done. It's like, I can do another story. It just happens. Just get in there and finish it.
Marcus, I sweat over every panel. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you.
I don't want to say I sweat over it. I labor over the thumbnails more than anything because, like I said, it's like what do I need to convey in this panel? Really can be a struggle sometimes because I just the genius of some storytellers out there, they can tell so much with so little. That's the next like economy of panels basically.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me if I were to have recommendations for upcoming comic artists and writers, one of the things that would definitely be on there are the two G.I. Joe silent issues. Because, if you're writing the comic well, you really shouldn't need dialogue to figure out what is going on. Just because it is a visual medium, you should just visually be able to get like the general overall of what's what. The dialogue is what sweetens it, is what adds depth to it. Whose art is this on screen? It's my guest. It's Fabrizio Aiello's. This is right. Issue 3 of Horace H. Hoover, for which you should definitely go check out his Kickstarter.
It's up for I think 27 more days. And I will say this, I'm not doing like a fund my comic after this. I'm not doing like it's just this is it. So if you're interested at all, please check it out.
I really hope this funds. I know that you will probably do like a smaller print run, even if this doesn't. But it's so hard to figure out where to sell comics these days. You can do the convention route, which is good. This in some ways is I don't know if you remember in the 80s, but you used to be able to order comics right to your house. They would have a little thing in all the issues, and you click like, I want a Spider-Man, or I want a Superman and a Wonder Woman and whatever. And to me, this is kind of like a crowdfunding in some ways, is kind of a return to that.
Interesting.
But it's just so hard to figure out where exactly to connect with an audience who's willing to part with some money.
I've done conventions and I like them. I've done big and small ones. I haven't done a ton, but I've done, Baltimore and some local ones in Pittsburgh and this and that. And for me, it's fun talking to people and meeting them. It's fun. It's interesting to see who actually stops at your table and looks interested, and who walks by without a second look at your stuff. Uh, and it's fine. I like Horace H. Hoover is a niche comic. There's no doubt about it. The comic is niche. The art is niche. Everything about it is niche. So I knew that going into it. So when somebody stops, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And so cons are fine, but you're not gonna sell hundreds and hundreds of copies unless you're I don't know, like a current professional who's working for Image or something like that. So it's a good place to, I look at it as more of like marketing. So when I go to a convention and I have the banners and all that stuff, somebody will see the name. Maybe they don't stop. Maybe somebody sees it on Kickstarter. Maybe somebody sees it on Twitter, and eventually they're like, oh, I wonder what that is. So if it's marketing, then I feel like that's a bit of a success. It does.
It does. I mean, the one consolation with the indies industry, where it can be difficult to get the word out and sell stuff. Marvel doesn't seem to be able to sell stuff either, so you shouldn't feel too bad.
It's interesting. I mentioned this on Twitter before, but the one thing that I notice across the board is that people today, for the most part, are looking for recognizable IP. So much so that I was talking to this one guy who did all anime merch. First of all, he makes a killing. That aside, he said it's so, like, not only do they want the most recognizable, season to season is hard to sell. Like when season 2 hits, like season 1 stuff is out of style. So it's like cutting edge, most recognizable thing at that exact moment. It's like having like the most like hot purple and blue, yellow trapper keeper in school. Like you want to be that person. So when they see non-recognizable IP, to them, it's like, that's not going to get me any likes on social media, or it's not going to do anything for me.
That's funny you say that, because that was like the dream of toy makers back in the 80s. That's like why they killed Optimus Prime, because like, we want to get rid of this old season that everybody likes. Just buy the new toys. And somehow that has been achieved.
It's I think it is very much a generational thing. Like I wanted the album that nobody knew about. I wanted the band that nobody heard. I wanted the comic book that I found at, it's just a zine, or something. But it's totally a generational thing, and it is what it is. I don't think you can change that.
Do you have any theories on why that be? I mean, to some extent, I wonder if it's because everything is such crap that it's just like you get the dopamine hit from something new, and then you immediately move on to something else.
I mean, I do think that's it. And I think it's also reflected in the Netflix, right? You have to watch Stranger Things the day it comes out. If not, you're not talking to anybody. So part of me thinks, and I think somebody else mentioned this on Twitter, I don't want to take their idea, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was. It was in response to my comment, and it was something about, since there's no shared culture a lot of times now, and shared media like there used to be, the only shared stuff is the most popular at that point. And I thought that was a really insightful comment.
That's a good point. And it seems like the shared culture is going to be less and less. Like, the Marvel movies were, I would say, kind of like the last big cultural trend in movies. And they fizzled out. They managed to screw that up. And like you mentioned, Stranger Things, I think it's been so long since the last season. And then before that, it was like 3 years. So I think like people are watching Stranger Things season 5 for the nostalgia of it. Because it's 10 years old now. It's like, I remember those kids. That was great. And like, but there's nothing else out there. Maybe K-pop Demon Hunters. We'll see how much legs those have. But
that's what I was thinking. So, I understand it. For a moment, I refer to Horace as H Hoover sometimes, but
Mhm.
I didn't want to put that on the logo because,
Yeah.
as everybody knows, there's a famous serial killer, H. Holmes.
Yeah.
And I was convinced the moment I put that as like the logo, there would be a movie about H. Holmes. Utterly convinced. There has yet to be like a big famous movie. So, but now I'm wondering, I should have made it H. Holmes in hopes that there's
Yeah.
a movie, and then it would be
Confused and sells,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Uh, so Joe Facetious asks, talking people still talk to each other, what? It's more like if you're an old fart, like we are,
Yeah.
there were only like 3 real television channels when we were growing up. And so like everybody, if something happened on an episode, on like a Friday night episode, everybody knew about it and everybody was talking about it at work on Monday. So these various cultural media were spectacles that everybody kind of shared in. Same with like watching the big game.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, and that gives you a connection, and it makes an in group, and you could eventually veer into some a little bit more unorthodox stuff. But most people who liked really out there, underground type stuff were considered weirdos. And a lot of times, due to that and maybe some other things, they weren't considered part of an in group. So, one of the nice things about the internet is that you could find other weirdos who liked the same weird thing that you
Ugh.
did. Uh, Sometimes it went horribly awry, but it wasn't that bad. But now, like, there's nothing really culturally, like nobody is watching the same episode of
No.
MASH like they used to. I couldn't even tell you what's on, what shows are playing on the big networks
Yeah,
anymore.
nobody has any bands that
Yeah.
like I can't name a Taylor Swift song, but I understand she's popular. Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
so we have nothing. There is literally nothing that it was funny. I was in my office one day and we were talking about movies, and I said, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, the one movie everybody had seen. Everybody had seen The Godfather or maybe Rocky or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of movies like that. And I said, everybody in this room here, the only movie that they've seen is, and you mentioned it, is Marvel, like Endgame. That was
Yep.
the last time everybody was on sort of the quote unquote the same page. Since then, it's just, you're talking, hey, did you see this TV show? No, I saw this TV show. You should see that. Hey, did you see this TV show? Those are like the worst conversations I can think of, where nobody has seen anything that anybody else has seen, but everybody keeps recommending.
Marcus says, my wife can name a Taylor Swift song. I'm so sorry, Marcus. We'll pray for you, buddy.
Yeah, so lamenting it. I don't know. I don't think there's a solution. Just go to these conventions and hope that shifts a little bit. I feel like it should ping pong a little bit. Like, somebody out there is really looking for like the most unique thing at a convention, but I don't think we're there yet. That's for sure.
Wait, what?
You haven't seen The
You never
God?
saw? Well,
Rocky?
that can happen. I only saw Blade Runner for the first time like a year or two ago.
Holy cow.
So
I mean,
you can
we could
miss
say
the boat.
E.T. or something. I mean, there's other better movies that everybody has
Yeah.
seen, but
Well, the other thing is, I believe if you are a 50-year-old man, Jaws came out before you were born.
yeah, that's right. Like The Godfather wasn't, I was 2 when The Godfather came out or something like that. So picking a movie in the middle of the 80s, like Back to the Future maybe, or something like that,
Yeah.
is a better example of it.
Yes. So getting back to Horace for a minute, I did notice wait, it was here somewhere. Here we go. The detective set. So you're bringing back the resin models?
Yeah, I mean, I still have them. So I don't have a lot. I think I have 11 total. But I'm not doing another batch. So this is it. Once these guys are done. So these are fully painted, fully assembled resin models. Hand painted, hand everything. They're very nice. I love them.
Very cool.
I sculpted it, and then I had a gentleman in the UK do everything. He printed, did the molds, cast the whole 9 yards. Really nice stuff. But yeah, I only have so many, and then they're done, and I'm not going to be redoing them. So,
is that something you think you'll revisit for future series? Not necessarily Horace, but
yeah, I could sculpt them, but getting them made, I find that people. So I also sell resin model kits. People really aren't into them as much as I thought. Fully paint, they cost too much. So the stuff that I do is like, it's so custom and so like boutique that they're really expensive. And I don't. It's just not worth it. And I don't want to like lower the quality, because some people do 3D stuff like that. It's just not a nice quality, and I know the difference because I used to do 3D printing and all that stuff. So to me, my standards are super high, and unfortunately, people, it's just too much money for them. So
what if you sold them unpainted?
I do sell them unpainted as well. So I have Horace unpainted. I think I have 10 of these, so they're unpainted. I think there's like 10 pieces, something like that. I mean, I can pull it out, but yeah. But people, I don't know. I think painting kits is like an older hobby. I don't think people do that as much anymore as they used to.
Yeah, like models and stuff like that. And it's funny, my wife and I were talking about like painting ceramics.
Yeah.
Used to be like a really big thing. Oh, well, I know, especially near where you were. My grandma was not too far from there. And there were several stores that sold the ceramics. I don't know where you get them anymore. But I think it does survive in gaming. Like if you could make, not Battletech, Warhammer. If you could make Warhammer like stuff, or Dungeons and Dragons fantasy stuff, I bet those.
Yeah, so if you look back there, I have like a Dagon, a Lovecraft one that I sell. I do Jacob Marley. There's a Nosferatu one. I've been selling them for a while, and they don't sell great. Again, I'm not I'm more focused on the comics than the resin models. But it was going to be like my main profession for a while. But then I just realized that people, again, aren't. It's too boutique. It's too expensive. If you could mass produce them and bring the price down, then maybe. But I'm getting these from the UK. I'm getting them from China. I'm getting them. I'm hand doing them. It's just too much. But if anybody does want to go to Etsy and look my stuff up, feel free.
All right. So, Horace, there are a lot of options from all digital, to print, to print with action, models,
resin.
action figure, models. And there's even retailer bundles. Is there anything else that we should know about Horace?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm doing sketch cards, which I'm pretty good at the sketch cards. I really do a lot of detail. They're going to be full color, watercolor. So if you ever wanted some original art by me, this is the time to get it. I've never sold pages before, but they're available here. There's 4 of them, one from each comic. If that's a little too much for you, I highly recommend the sketch cards because they don't take up a lot of space, and I do a bang up job with those. I think that's it. Again, it's 27 days or whatever. and then we're done, and we'll see how far we are.
Yeah, and if you know a comic book lover, you have a family member who wants some great stuff, why not order the Horace? 1 through 4 give you a complete series arc for the Smoke Man, and great art.
Thank you.
I like this cover a lot, by the way. Yeah, go check it out. There are links in the chat. There should be a link down below in the description, whether you're on YouTube, or I think I saw one person checking in on Rumble at one point.
That's cool.
So yeah. Do you think you might have 5 next year? Or
yeah, for sure. 5 will
For sure? Okay.
be done next year at some point in time.
Excellent. Yeah, so go pick up 1 through 4 while you can. Tide yourself over until you can get issue 5.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate everybody popping in, and yeah.
All right, thanks everyone, and I will be back